So I predicted 150 that Nepal would
Very,
get.
very optimistic indeed, because Nepal have been rolled over for a woeful 104. Shadab Khan with 4 wickets, Shaheen and Haris and Naseem all chipping in. When you are 14 for 3, I'm sorry, there is just no way back in the chase of 343 runs. And so, Pakistan has started their Asia Cup 2023 campaign on the ultimate of high with an absolute shellacking of Nepal.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to forget, but this is a tournament where there's a group stage, which means net run rate is going to come into play. So the bigger the win, the better it is. Because again, you could potentially, considering the fact that most would expect India and Pakistan to beat Nepal,
Yep.
you would say that, whoever can beat them by a bigger margin would be favorites to kind of take that top spot.
Top spot. And okay, I'm wrong. Nepal didn't lose to Pakistan by 238 runs. They lost to Babar Azam alone by 47 runs.
Correct.
If you want any kind of solace, what was Iftikhar's score?
100 and something, the early hundreds. Like
Wait,
not,
we'll just check
we'll
that.
just check that. I think he had 107, 108 types.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same number. Actually, no, they've lost to even him by 3
That's what
runs,
I
if
have
I'm
to
not
check.
wrong.
I have to check.
Yeah, I think they lost to him by about 3 or 4 runs. Just check
Oh, yeah, because I'll just check that. Because if you want any kind of solace, okay, if the car, maybe his 110, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it was less than that, but again, I don't think...
My net is gone.
Let me bring my phone.
Yep. So, looking at the situation, Nepal losing to 47 runs to Babar Azam alone. And if you have to look at it, we are just checking Iftikhar's score at this time.
Yeah. So if the car score was
actually
109.
They
So
have lost by 5 runs to Iftikhar also.
Exactly.
So that is the nature of the loss that Nepal have actually had. I mean, they were never in the contest even when the first over was bowled. Shaheen Afridi getting that ball to swing and the first wicket strangled down the leg side.
Exactly.
And they burnt their review to a ball that was even more plumber if you have to look at it.
I mean, it was pitching well within the line. It was pitching on middle and off, and then straightens and is cartooning into off, into a middle stump. What was the guy thinking? I know you get 3 reviews, but do you need to burn one for the sake of burning one?
Exactly. And then they had a 50-run partnership, but then after that, they just collapsed like a house of cards.
I mean that 50-run partnership was more about saving face. And
Yeah.
truth be told, once you're chasing 300 odd, if you're an associate nation, you're up against a full member nation. The whole point at that point is to lose respectfully. They could have done that if they'd batted 30, 40 overs. Maybe they'd have gotten to 150, 200. Who knows? They could have gotten something. But unfortunately, Shadab really proved to be the difference maker for them because, again, you were worried that Shaheen, by the way, walked off the field at the end of the 10th over. He ended up coming back after the 17th over was bowled, which means he missed 7 total overs of action. It may very well have been precautionary, but 7 overs you don't go off if it's a toilet break, let's put it that way.
Yep. See, remember, Shaheen was discussing with the physio.
Even before walking off.
Yep. So that means he's still not fully fit from that knee injury that he sustained. And remember, he's been plagued by a chronic knee injury for the past 1 year.
Exactly.
Remember? And heading into the Asia Cup, he already had a very heavy workload. Remember, in the 2 tests against Sri Lanka, although Naseem prospered, it was Shaheen also who set the
Bowling, yeah, he was bowling a lot of overs.
He was bowling rockets at that period. And
After that, he was playing the 100.
Yup. And then I think he was there even in the Pakistan-Afghanistan series also.
Yeah, he was there.
He was there. So, as a left-arm pacer and looking at his height and his pace, he shouldered a very heavy workload. And it's no surprise that he had to go off. And remember, Pakistan's next encounter is September 2 against
That's the big
India.
game.
That is the big game. And if Shaheen goes out, then you've got problems galore. Because then Pakistan's attack lacks that variety.
Exactly.
And left armour, you saw, even at the initial, this will please India probably. Because what I look at I'll come to the batting performance, which you've already discussed, but the bowling. You noticed in the first 4 to 5 overs, there were 1 or 2 good balls, but there were 3 to 4 bad balls.
Exactly.
All were swinging down the leg side.
In fact, even his first wicket, he got off a terrible ball. Let's call a spade here.
Yep.
It wasn't some great wicket-taking delivery that got him his first wicket. It was, in fact, one that was swinging, into the right-hander. But because he had pitched it on middle and leg, it was swinging away. He just happened to nick one going back. Worst way to get dismissed.
Worst way. So that is why there were 3 to 4 bad deliveries. And remember, if India's batters can hold their nerve, keep their cool, they can actually capitalize in that sense when you look at Pakistan's bowling attack.
Correct.
Sure, they may have all the skill, all the grit, and all the, you may say, the match winning abilities that they've got. But also understand one thing, Pakistan can tend to spray it around also.
Exactly, because remember, the likes of Shaheen and Naseem, even Naseem, by the way, was erring with his lines a bit in his early phase. Why? Because he was looking for that outswing.
Exactly.
So what was he doing? He was kind of bowling it on middle and leg. Now, middle leg is perfect if you can get it to nip away late. He wasn't. He wasn't getting that kind of movement. And what was happening? It was either going down straight or worse, it was swinging in. So
Yes.
it was basically just very easy to play off the pads. Now with a swing bowler, you're going to expect that kind of experimentation. You are in fact going to be expecting them to try that little bit because again, white ball, you know, it's not going to be swinging forever. Maybe the first 10 overs if you're lucky. And don't forget, Pakistan had the advantage also bowling under lights.
Lights.
So that also helps. Now all of that taken into mind. If they don't have Shaheen, and Shaheen they're going to be watching. By the way, just another update for you. Even Haris at one point looked like he was winded. There was a point where he was he went down on his haunches. He took a little bit of hydration. He took some water, and I think he had some of those sports drinks that they have, and then was able to bowl. He had bowled 4 balls in that over, and he was tired. That, of course, could very well just be heat.
Remember, in Multan, it's 40 degrees and over 80% of humidity.
So it's not easy conditions to be playing cricket in, trust
Yep,
me.
I mean, remember, even when we played a 20-over game, in these kind of extreme heat, remember,
No,
I
yeah.
think it was around May or July or something.
I remember it was the first match STPL. It was so humid that you just walked onto the field and you were sweating, and that drains your energy.
Exactly.
So it's not easy conditions for them to be playing. But with Shaheen, I know a lot of people were pointing out on the video that I had done breaking, saying that he came back on. You're right, with 7 overs. 7 overs. Let's assume, say 1 over of pace. How much time does that take? 6 to 7 minutes, maybe.
Yes.
If you take even 6 minutes, if you're being that generous to a express pace bowler like Haris Rauf, that he's getting 6 balls bowled in 6 minutes, and they were only bowling their pacers at that time. 6 times 7 is 42 minutes. 42 minutes toilet break? I don't know.
No, it was an injury scare.
Definitely
I
a
think
scare.
It is a scare. So
And
that is why-
maybe they're being overcautious, but
Yeah.
they have learned the hard way to err on the side of caution with him, because last year they pushed. He didn't play the Asia Cup. He came back in time for the World Cup, was woefully undercooked. And then what happened? After that, he ended up having to undergo surgery.
He suffered yet another injury in the final, remember, while taking
Yes.
a catch.
Yeah, and then he couldn't bowl.
couldn't bowl.
Many would argue that was one of the key reasons why England actually ended up getting there in the end, because the match was very 50-50 at that point. But with no Shaheen, they knew that, okay, the most dangerous bowler arguably in the death is gone. So
He is gone. Yes. So that is why there will be a fitness concern over Shaheen
100%.
heading into even the World Cup as well. Because
Exactly.
remember, Pakistan are one of the favorites to get to the final. Okay?
Hmm.
One of the favorites. Because looking at this Asia Cup, Sri Lanka, if I would have given them a faint chance had Wanindu Hasranga been fit.
but with no one in the
That team really lacks some penetration. And remember, Thikshana can only do so much. But if you look at even your pacers, there is Lahiru Kumara, but even he too tends to spray it around. Chamika Karunaratne, he's kind of dibbly-dobbly, isn't that pacey? Then also, all the other Sri Lanka bowlers don't inspire you that much of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, if you look at it, and yesterday I remember when the squad came, Harshit and me were discussing that pace bowling wise, they look thin.
Very
Thin.
Very
And with no Wanindu there, that's your one key wicket taker in the middle over is just gone.
just gone.
Gone.
And remember, Bangladesh are mercurial. So that is
But
why...
even they're having their issues there with injuries.
Yeah.
Ibadat Hussain could potentially be missing the World Cup.
No, not potentially. He's
missing the World
because
Cup.
he's going to undergo knee surgery.
Correct. There's no Litin Das for the Asia Cup. That's one of their best batters, just gone.
Just gone. Yep. So that is why it is not a good situation when you look at the other teams. Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. You see Nepal's condition.
Yeah.
So you are potentially looking at India versus Pakistan even in the final.
Correct.
Unless, I mean, as Raj Dasgupta points out, no Madhushanka, no Dushmant Chamira, no Lahiru Kumara. I mean, even Lahiru Kumara is also not there.
Exactly.
Imagine.
They've had their squad is ravaged by injuries, and the batting still looks fine. Like, I wouldn't say it's great, it looks fine, but the bowling looks a big concern. The pace bowling is a concern, and with no Wanindu, that's your one wicket taker in the middle overs just gone. And by the way, was in flying form in recent times. In the LPL, was bowling well, captaining well,
Even
batting
did well in the World Cup qualifiers also.
Yes, he
Manu
was in
Hassan.
very good form. He was in the World Cup qualifiers. So not having him there, it's a big problem. So
Massive.
actually, for Pakistan, they would hope that they can keep everyone fit, because again, one thing we've noticed with longer formats of cricket, say Test cricket, ODI cricket, the better teams generally tend to win out.
Yep.
So if you have your team combination sorted, 9 times out of 10 you're winning. In T20s, you can get away with 2 or 3 performers putting in blinders because it's a shorter format.
Shorter format.
Here, I would say if Pakistan have to, make the final, half the battle will be won if everyone stays fit. That is the key. If you're looking at Shaheen, those issues always crop up.
And remember, India, if you have to look at it, in the Asia Cup, they were lucky because Shaheen wasn't there. One.
Exactly.
Number two, you remember Shane in that very first game which India won with that last ball 6? Last over 6.
Last
not
over
ball.
6, yeah.
Naseem Shah had that injury, remember, which he bowled 2 balls at just over 120. He got hit for a 4 and a 6.
Exactly.
So that
And he was struggling, I remember, in that
He
match.
was. He had a hamstring problem. Lack of fitness, and that is why India were lucky that they could get that. Otherwise, Pakistan were dominating for more than half of the game there.
In fact, if I remember clearly, that time Shaheen wasn't playing, so it was Wasim Jr. who was the third pacer. It was him,
and
Haris
Haris
Rauf, and Naseem, who were the 3 pacers.
Nawaz and
Shadab were the spinners.
Nawaz bowled the final over like he did in the Melbourne World T20 and he got hit. But again, remember, it needed Jadeja, the floater, to bail India out. They had to do something out of syllabus in that
Yeah,
sense.
you could say the same even for Melbourne.
Melbourne,
were it not for Kohli's 2 sixes, that match was going nowhere.
Otherworldly.
Exactly, those last 2 sixes were just pulled out of the hat.
But more than those 2 sixes, we focus on that. But remember, Kohli actually got going off Shaheen.
Exactly.
In the 17th over, if you look at it, he hit a couple of boundaries and a 6, if I'm not mistaken, of Shaheen. And that changed the entire move. Because remember, Shaheen in the death has
Can be hit
often
or miss.
struggled.
Yeah, he can be hit or miss.
I would say not hit or miss. I think he's more of a miss.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, it was his over.
Matthew Wade hit 3 sixes.
2021. Matthew Wade hit 3 sixes, and that's what lost Pakistan that semi-final.
Yep. So that is why big problems if Shaheen is injured, because he's your ultimate power play bowler. There is
no 2 ways about it. This man is excellent at getting overs, wickets up front.
Yep.
He proved it yet again today. How many times now has it become a thing that you'll see Shaheen Afridi come on to bowl the first over and he's getting you at least 1 wicket? He was on a hat-trick. Of course, the hat-trick ball was terrible. He ended up getting thumped for a 4. But, he was on a hat-trick. And truth be told, if not for him, then that's half the problem's gone. Also, the other problem then becomes a variety. You can bring in Wasim Jr., who's a great operator. There's no 2 ways about it. Naseem and him are 2 to watch for the future. But Wasim Jr. again is a right-hander.
Yeah.
Then that problem comes where it's a little one-dimensional, that you have Wasim Jr. and Naseem operating in the power plays, and then you have Haris and the other 2 spinners.
Yeah, that's the problem. And talking about that, I mean, Pakistan will be very happy with the performance today of Shadab, the bowler.
Oh yes.
And Nawaz, the bowler, also, because Nawaz was accurate, but Shadab created those chances.
Shadab was taking wickets for fun.
Yep.
And of course, some of them were absolutely, like, I think the Lamichhane dismissal, I don't know what Lamichhane was thinking.
Yeah.
Of all people, by the way, a leg spinner getting deceived by a flighted googly.
Exactly.
How do you do that? But it happened.
It happens. And remember, Lamichhane should have learned from watching Shadab Khan, the drift, the rip, the lengths that he was bowling.
Oh yeah, he was very consistent with his lines and lengths.
He got hit for a 6.
But if you're no problem. If you're bowling attacking lines, it's gonna happen sometimes. With the whole point of wrist spinners is what? That they're gonna bowl attacking lines and they're gonna deceive you because they have those variations. And that's what Shadab has also. By the way, he got wickets with pretty much every ball of his, whether it be the googlies, whether it be his leg breaks, whether it be the last wicket was with a straightener. Nothing ball. It was just straight and they completely.
And remember, the googly, he was getting it to rip also of this deck, and that's why it is going to be a problem, because see, India also in the past have struggled against quality spin.
Oh yeah, leg spinners especially.
And Shadab is one of the best. He's having a real purple patch with the bat and with the ball as well. So today, Shadab, the bowler, stepped up. Prior to that, Shadab, the batter, was always stepping up. So he will be the key in the clash against India. Because at this point, if you look at it, he and Nawaz, they will be the key in the middle overs, where he can strangle India in that sense.
Yeah, and with Nawaz, he also tends to be a little expensive sometimes on occasion. But when he's in his element, he's very hard to get away. He might not get you too many wickets,
But he can dry the floor.
He's metronomic. He'll keep bowling it in those good areas and will end up drying up the runs.
Yep. So Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, better watch out if Shaheen is fit. You have a big task. But if you have seen this match very closely,
they're going to be monitoring him.
You can actually score runs if you hold your nerve. Because Pakistan's bowlers can tend to spray it around. And remember one more thing. Shaheen is under an injury cloud, so he'll not be probably bowling full tilt.
I think they're going to... it'll be very interesting to watch, and I think this is only something that we'll be tracking over the coming days. Remember, the match is on Saturday. Today is only Wednesday.
The latest update is that there will be no practice tomorrow in Kanji for the Indian team. So that is the latest update you got from the BCCI. No practice tomorrow. So probably the match simulations that they have done, they are quite satisfied.
Allure and all
with
which they were doing.
Yeah, but then maybe on 1st September, they may probably want to practice.
I think there'll be an optional session. That's always how it goes, right? One day before the match.
Yeah, but then this time they want to change. Maybe all the big guns.
I hope. I would love that. But I would also be key to watch what goes on in Pakistan's practice sessions, because I think they're going to manage Shaheen.
But whether will Pakistan get the time to come? Because see, they'll be leaving mostly by tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they'll have to come here, and that is why, let's take some. Raj Dasgupta will be rested, keeping in mind the World Cup.
I doubt. I think you'll manage his workload in the nets. You can't rest him. You do understand that for Pakistan, even winning the Asia Cup would be a big thing. They were finalists last year in both the Asia Cup and the World Cup. Ended up falling short both times, but they would be keen to add some trophies. Yeah.
I think the time of resting, unless if there is an injury.
Yeah, it's gone.
You can't rest a player of Shaheen's caliber. I mean,
you might manage his workload and say, okay, maybe or tell him don't bowl full tilt. You might actually negate the number of overs he bowls.
But again, if you don't bowl him if he doesn't bowl full tilt, his potency reduces.
Exactly, because then he's just your average left-arm bowler.
Yeah.
His potency is what? That he can bowl at 140s and still get it to turn. To swing.
To swing, and that too, not you may say big banana swing, little bit.
That subtle variation both ways.
Yeah, that's why Shaheen is so effective. I think, tomorrow Pakistan will come to Sri Lanka and maybe an optional practice session on the 1st. But because of the travel, I don't think it is that possible. Because it will take you 4 hours, by the way. Remember?
Yeah. It's not a short flight.
It is quite a long journey across the Park Strait that
Exactly.
Got.
So I think there's not going to be actually any practices. So I think he's okay there. But they're definitely going to be monitoring that.
One has to hope that the rain plays a part, because remember, the weather in Palakele on September 2 is not looking good at all. It's 75% probability in the afternoon time, 67% probability only in the evening time. And it means steady rain. You would not want to see heavy rain, because if it's heavy rain, probably there is a wind, it clears away quickly. But this is steady rain, meaning that it will stay in Palakele. And remember, the rain only has to stop.
Yeah, correct.
After that, the ground will be ready within 15 to 20 minutes, because Sri Lanka's groundsmen are the best in the world. They cover the entire outfield. England, please learn some lessons. Australia, please learn some lessons from Sri Lanka. Which, by the way, even Stuart Broad and Joe Root admitted that, yes, we are a fan of the Sri Lanka way of covering.
Why didn't you cover everything?
Yes.
Why just the pitch?
So within 15-20 minutes, the rain stops. You can start play.
Exactly. Otherwise, what you're doing, match not resuming, you do wet outfield. But then if there is a solution, cover the outfield.
Exactly, with the best. That's why even Saurav Ganguly was a big fan of the Sri Lankan system. And remember, Sri Lanka's groundsmen are also experts in weather. They will know if it's coming from the horizon. Oh yes, you need to get them off, because you have to cover the entire field. And remember, Sri Lanka have always been spot on with that. And the weather, unfortunately, 75% and 67% on.
It means you're getting some rain interruptions for sure.
And that too, not heavy rain, steady rain.
Which is worse, I would say.
Which is actually worse, because there'll be no wind. And remember, Palakele being in the rain shadow area, you will actually not get that much of wind assistance as well. So if it stays for that particular period of time.
So you're hoping that there's not too much rain in that regard.
Yep.
So, you hope that's not the case.
Yeah, Raj Dasgupta is echoing your own criticism of Sandeep Lamichan. What use is Lamichan, only player among the 11 who had played all over the globe with stars, still have not learned anything? But Raj, one player's presence all over the globe
doesn't really make a team good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, see, how many times have Nepal played? Just have a recollection in the past 1-2 years. How many times has Nepal played in major multi-nation events apart from the World Cup qualifier? Very few.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't part of last year's Asia Cup. Hong Kong had qualified.
This is the first time.
Yeah.
This is the first time that Nepal are ever playing the Asia Cup.
And it's no one except the very small teams that will play them for bilaterals. So
Your big nations are not playing all the other smaller nations because there is just no money, no revenue.
there's no monetary incentive. In fact, that brings us to another question which Akash asked. He's saying that why T20 is now when the World Cup season is coming, because T20 sell.
No. And also there is a regulation that you cannot just have in a full member tour. You cannot just have either T20s or ODIs.
Just ODIs, it has to be both.
It has to be both. So the minimum criteria at that time was 2 T20s. There's no one-offs anymore.
Yeah,
They
one-offs are
scrapped
done.
one-off T20s.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense considering they're focusing more and more on T20s.
Yeah.
So one-offs don't happen anymore.
Yep. So that is why you have to play either 2 or 3 T20Is, or if you're playing 5 T20Is, 2 or 3 ODIs.
Correct.
That is the rule now. You have to play them. Otherwise, if you just play 5 ODIs, like how used to happen in
Back
the
in
past,
the day, yeah.
it's not allowed. It's not allowed anymore. So that is why. But they struggle. Same as Bangladesh. No confidence. I mean, yeah, Bangladesh is a different case, Raj.
Yeah.
You cannot compare Bangladesh with Nepal because Bangladesh, they are a case study of how they got it on a platter, but they did not capitalize on it.
Exactly. In Nepal, it's very different. They're still starting up. So
Yeah.
you can't really say much
And
about
remember,
that.
their board was also suspended because of political interference as well. So that
Exactly.
is why their problems are a lot more. Akash Bharat was saying, yeah, I agree, cover everything, but does all the stadiums have the facility to do that? In Sri Lanka, yes.
That's why it
Every
happens.
stadium has that facility. You look at Gaul, you look at Palakkele, you look at Hambantota, you even look at Colombo. Every stadium there has got the facility to do it, and that is why it is a big plus that Sri Lanka has, and it's a big initiative. I think the ICC should standardize the way how the Sri Lankans do it, because they are saving all the viewers, saving the broadcasters, saving the players time.
Exactly.
Moment if the rain stops, okay, we just clear the water from the covers and just put it back, and the ground is ready. That is the way how Sri Lanka goes. And remember, since it's a retreating monsoon and you're also going to have the double whammy of the northeast monsoon also pretty soon, Sri Lanka are in a catch-22 situation. But at this time, you would want to ensure that Sri Lanka hosts games, but the rain has to stop. Okay. So Satish Swaminathan has sent a super chat from the US. He's saying, if Pakistan scored only 200, would Shaheen have walked off the field today? Is this just to distract the Indian team because they have such a big total to defend?
No, Satish Swaminathan. I think we're reading a little too far into the.
No, but then see, Satish, if it's an injury, then I think he wouldn't have gone away for 7 overs. I am sorry.
Yeah, if it was mind games, 7 overs is a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand if it was while Pakistan have to defend a very small total, but then if it's an injury, Satish. I mean, we can't speculate on the nature. I think did Babar or anybody talk about the injury?
Let me just check. We'll
Yeah.
keep an eye and see if anything was there. In fact, if there is an update, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think.
So Babar Azam is anyway the player of the match, and he was saying when I went in, the ball wasn't coming on properly. So I was trying to build an innings with Rizwan. Then we had a different phase. Sometimes Rizwan gave me confidence, sometimes I gave him belief. Iftikhar also played a great innings. I told him to play his natural game. Couple of overs we weren't up to the mark, but the way our pacers started and the spinners was brilliant. He has not said a word about Shaheen.
Yeah, in fact, neither did Shadab say anything about Shaheen either.
Two things. One, either the injury is not too serious,
Yeah.
or the management might have told, do not talk about Shaheen's injury. Because simple, they may not know the real nature of it.
Exactly.
So you can look at two ways in that sense. So Babar Azam is the player of the match in that sense. And let's look at some other. Any update about Ibadat Hussein's availability? Gopal Krishnan, Ibadat Hussain out of the Asia Cup and the World
Yeah,
Cup.
because he's undergoing knee surgery. So that's a major problem. And it's a
Major
blow for them, really, because Ibadat is probably one of their better. Him and Taskin, you can say, are those key bowlers.
Taskin in a way, but then Ibadat after a New Zealand high has not been up to the mark in that
But
sense.
he's mercurial, and we know Bangladesh have a
Yeah.
good mercurial talent. So
Vignesh Konar is like saying, we so much talk about covers, but Western countries don't have that much of coverage of covers, but people don't complain.
But
Why?
that's not true. People A do complain, and B over there they have the advantage in places in the Sena nations, in England and Australia. More often than not, their drainage systems are also really good. So that is one thing that kind of ensures that they don't need to worry that much about the outfield. However, in a country like Sri Lanka, what they've done is because they know that the amount of rain that they get sometimes can be more than normal. So, best thing
Yeah.
to do, take that precaution, cover the ground.
See, this has happened in Brisbane. Brisbane, pouring rain, but they have the best drainage facility in the world.
Exactly.
Sydney doesn't have that much of a good drainage system, and that's why you've seen there have been controversial instances when the outfield has ensured that play couldn't start,
Exactly.
despite rain having stopped 2-3 hours before.
Exactly.
But remember, even with Sydney on a couple of occasions, there was continuous rain for 2 to 3 days. That is why that incident has happened. England is a very different case. I mean, I struggle to believe that England, you know that you get rain very frequently.
And very
there.
frequently, and you can't sometimes more often than not, you're not predicting it also. So, what do you
Yet,
do?
and remember, the criticism was there in India versus New Zealand game. Remember, not the semi-final in 2019, the league game in Trent Bridge.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have covered the entire outfield? Because they all knew that moment you start, the covers are off, your outfield is going to be slushy. But remember one major thing, the rain never stopped, and that's why you had to abandon the game.
Exactly.
So before
Akash
I take
Bharadwaj.
Akash Bharadwaj, Haris Khan, we already commented about for 15-20 minutes
We've
about
been still commenting about
Yep.
it. In fact, so
Akash Bharadwaj. You need to rewind the tape and go back, Haris. But yeah, great win for Pakistan. They have shown their intentions that yes, they are one of the finalists in contention for the Asia
Potentially,
Cup.
yeah.
How do you see the spin battle in SL? Bangladesh have good spinners, and we have seen in Bangladesh.
I mean, true. I mean, look, Bangladesh, they do have good spinners. Don't forget, even their captain.
Yeah.
The current captain, Shakib, is someone who can trouble people on pitches that do offer a little bit of assistance. For that matter, a lot of teams, I think even Afghanistan for that matter,
Yep.
they are one of those teams that, truth be told, could field 4 spinners just like that.
Just like that. And remember,
like that.
Shakib is a match spinner.
Yeah.
And this time he hasn't made any, you may say, odd comments. You remember once he made a comment, oh, I think we're just here for practice. If
I remember he had said something during last year's World Cup. He says, "No, I don't think we are in contention for anything," or something like that. I remember that. It was very
I
funny.
agree that you have to be brutally honest, but don't reveal
Not
your
at
cards
that
out.
point.
I
Not
know.
at that point. You can say that we'll look to put our best foot forward.
Yep.
Yada yada. There's those kind of things.
Yep.
Freaking awesome. Duly noted.
Duly noted, yep.
Sachin Kashyap, how do you see Pakistan fielding? They fielded really well. Some of the catches, I remember. I think it was, I don't know whose catch it was. I think it was Babar who took the catch. Let me check.
Yeah, but remember, Pakistan's fielding has improved on a certain level. I mean, Shadab is one of your best fielders that is there. And
No, it was it was
Iftikhar,
Fakhar Zaman,
Fakhar Zaman,
who took a very good catch
of Gulshan Shah.
Yes, it was Shadab's ball. Yeah, that was the one. He dived in nicely. Very good catch. Very good catch. They've actually been pretty good in the field, pretty solid in the field. Of course, you have to also remember that their comparison today was Nepal, which isn't saying
yeah.
much. Nepal were terrible in the field.
but yeah, against a bigger nation and a much more
They
competitive.
sometimes do come under a bit of pressure.
Yeah. That time your real judge will be there at this point. So I will say that maybe it was a good day in the office for them, but against India, against the likes of England, against Australia, New Zealand, South Africa.
And we're not
that
just
will be
talking
the
Asia
real
Cup
test.
here,
Yeah,
obviously.
that will be the real test. Vignesh Konar is saying Pakistan have so much pace, but any indiscipline in line and length will ensure conceding 350 plus total against quality Indian batting lineup. Remember, 2003, 350 total was normal. 2003, oh yeah, I mean, there would be totals. Pakistan's
But that was
bowlers would-
in Pakistan, right? Or are we talking about?
batting lineup 2003 I don't remember that series that much, but yeah, but again remember in that series I think he's talking about India Pakistan 2004.
Yeah, 4 actually, not 3.
Maybe.
But there also you had many, sorry to say, road kind of pitches.
They were a little bit more competitive. I mean, see,
So some pitches were definitely
first
roads.
match was
Yeah,
349.
340, which I think India won by like 5 runs.
Yeah.
So
Nehra bowled a full toss to I think Yunus Khan, and I think you didn't get it for a 6. So that's why. Luckily, there was no Javed Miandar repeat there. So Shubham is saying, "Hi gentlemen, how you see Shreyas Iyer given it is wet conditions in Kanji and spinners will have a role and Shreyas feast spinners."
agreed. That's the one reason why I've been batting for him to be part of that lineup. I know he's not had any, match practice, anything of that sort. But truth be told, he's probably your best player of spin right now. The one Indian batsman who doesn't struggle and who looks to take on spinners.
Yeah.
And considering you're going to have quality spin lineups in the Asia Cup, even for that matter in the World Cup, you need someone in the middle order who can play spin. Yes, Akash Bharadwaj.
Sachin 141, Rawalpindi. I remember.
Rawalpindi,
So
yeah.
India started off with a win in Karachi.
Then lost 2 matches.
in Peshawar and Rawalpindi.
Yes.
And then came back in Lahore too.
The Lahore double header.
Double header, yes.
They won both matches in Lahore.
Dravid hit a 76 and KF
KF.
also hit in with a 71. And in the fifth game, it was Lakshman who hit 100. And Sachin took a great catch of Inzi of
Yeah.
Murli Karthik. So I remember that series. But I didn't know the sponsor name. I just
Yeah,
didn't
I've
care about the
forgotten the
sponsor,
sponsor
at that
point.
time. Yep,
Shoaib
Shoaib
Akhtar
Akhtar,
era,
Mohammad
correct.
Sami, and who was that other guy?
There was another, I'm forgetting his name.
I think it was Shadab Ahmed.
No, Shabir.
Shabir Ahmed.
Shabir,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
I remember
yes, yes.
that guy he was very much Shardul.
Yeah.
So if he bowled a bad ball, he was getting hit for a 4.
Yep.
But if he bowled a half decent ball, he was getting you wickets.
Yes.
So I remember him, Shabir Ahmed.
Shabir
Ahmed, yes, Sachin
yes,
Kashyap
yes.
points out.
I mean, he had a bent arm slightly, and in the future years, he would get called for chucking. So that's why.
Yeah,
it was
he
an
definitely
unfortunate problem.
it looked like he would hyperextend it.
Vignesh Konar is saying, chatter about Kishan opening. Is this news true or rumor?
I hope not. It's not true.
I think it's a rumor.
Yeah, but let's see.
Because see, if you're going to play Kishan at the top, that means Shubman is at 3, Virat is at 4.
Or potentially Rohit, but either which way. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's our
So
discussion.
Akash Bharadwaj saying
Yeah.
your thoughts on India versus Pakistan final. I think that will very well happen.
It could very likely happen. Could
Yep,
very
yep,
likely
yep,
happen.
yep. It will. So yeah, now Australia started off like a train against South Africa
Oh,
in
yeah.
the first T20. Any chance of Sanju Raj Das Gupta? Let us not get into the Sanju Ishan debate.
No.
here. No, it's not happening.
No, Sanju in Asia Cup only happens if someone gets injured. Remember, he's a
Yeah.
reserve player.
He is.
He's not in the squad. If he were in the squad, I would have preferred him starting. But he's not in the squad.
But he's not in the squad. He's just a traveling reserve.
Exactly. That.
And he can only get a chance if Ishan, somehow the management says, okay, we have no faith in him.
Yeah,
Suddenly.
Suddenly out of nowhere.
And then Sanju
I
comes
doubt.
in.
I doubt.
Whether that happens, we don't know. Okay, freaking awesome. We'll
Last
take this
question.
last question. Yeah, do you think India will play with 3 spinners on Sri Lankan ways? They're fairly spin friendly. Not so much in Palakkele, freaking awesome. I
Maybe
think-
Colombo.
But even there, at the Premadasa, you would not want to play 3. Because see, if you play 3 spinners, who are all? Kuldeep, Jaddu are a sure starter. Who will be the third? Aksar. For Jaddu, if he's there, why would you want to play Aksar? You don't have the Chahal variety also.
Exactly. That is the problem.
Yeah. 3 spinners, I think this is going to be a big problem. And
Yeah.
Akash Bharadwaj, maybe not. Remember, there's still about
A lot of
7
time.
months to go.
A lot of time. Let's
Not
get
7.
past. No, more than that, really. It's in
11
June.
months. 11 months
Yeah.
to go. Yeah.
I'm saying leave 2024 aside. 2023 hasn't started yet.
Yep. So Vignesh, check out the video that we've done on the weather prediction about India versus Pakistan in Palakkele, and that's how it is. So tomorrow it's the Nagin Derby, Bangladesh versus Sri Lanka, the Battle of the Nagins. Because remember, they've had a storied history ever since 2018. Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, they play in Palakkele. So thank you so much, folks, for the first day of the Asia Cup. It was a dampener, we may say.
Not the
for
best
rain.
opening. Not the best opening.
238 runs, Nepal. But yeah, you have to play certain teams
Yeah,
because
it's
a
better.
6-nation
It's better,
tournament.
and
Yep.
truth be told, but of course, doesn't take away from the fact that Nepal lost to both. What do you call Iftikhar and
And Babar, yeah. Don't worry, it's not a 238 run win. You lost by 47 runs to
And
Babar
5.
Azam and 5 runs only to Iftikhar Ahmed.
Anyway,
That's about it. So thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this live. We'll be back with more updates on Sports Story. Tap that bell icon so that when we go live from me, Shane, it's bye-bye. And don't forget to download the Sports mobile app for all the information you need.
bye bye.